hit a second button. Nope, there we go. All right. Hello, everybody. This is Secular Sekai with Tridents Against Tyrants. And today we are joined by Alik from Protect Ukraine Now. Alik has been part of a couple of different initiatives to assist Ukraine during these times of war. Welcome onto the stream, Alik.
Hi, Secular. Thank you for inviting me.
Yep. All right. So, right quick, while we're getting started, just as a check, because we're on Restream this week rather than OBS, give us a plus plus in chat so I can so we can know that audio and everything is good for you. And we're gonna go ahead and jump into things here in a bit. So let's see. First, I guess Alec, okay, yeah, I see a plus plus. Perfect. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, maybe where you're from, and the work that you've been doing with Protect Ukraine now.
Hi, my name is Alik Kasman, and I'm originally from Kiev, obviously capital city of Ukraine. I'm a systems engineer, and most of my life I had nothing to do with politics or YouTubing or any advocacy work. But the war, when it started about 2 years ago, it has changed everything for me and for so many other people. So here I am, uh, representing Protect Ukraine Now. We are an analytics agency. Protect Ukraine Now started about 2 years ago. From the first few months of the full-scale invasion, it became very quickly, very obviously to many of current members of the team that Ukraine could receive so much more military assistance from Ukraine, from the United States. We could do so much more, and we tried to enumerate that. It's very hard to display opinions. It's much more convincing when you have a table, a graph, or any sort of data to support what you have to say. So, Protect Ukraine Now started as an analytics agency where we report on military assistance to Ukraine, the actual munitions, actual gear that was delivered to Ukraine. We also analyzed various military supplemental bills and how they split between various users.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh, so okay, very good to know. So, what specifically inspired you to make Protect Ukraine Now more focused on the analytics side of how you could disperse information, keep people informed about what's happening in Ukraine?
That's a great question. Thank you, thank you for asking. We believe, and I think many people would agree, that we live in a very distorted information space. People, various organizations, various individuals, governments, they try to manipulate the data. We believe there is a time and place always for objective, true information. So people can look at numbers and arrive at their own conclusions.
Okay, very good. All right. Well, I guess let me go ahead and share a tab right quick. I'm going to open up the Protect Ukraine Now YouTube channel for everyone to see. All right, so there it is on screen, everybody. So Protect Ukraine Now has both a YouTube channel and a website. Um, the channel is growing. Yeah. It started, if I'm not mistaken, Well, I guess it's been around since 2022, but I think you started uploading more content
Yeah,
earlier toward the beginning of this year, correct?
it's probably less than a year of active YouTubing for us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, they're at 539 subscribers. The information is very well organized. I'm subscribed and I enjoy the content that Alec's been putting out on here. Um, so definitely go check out their YouTube channel. That is at Protect Ukraine Now is the tag on YouTube. Uh, in addition, oh, and I'll go ahead and put a link right now to that into the chat for everyone to see. And in addition, Protect Ukraine Now does have a website. So here it is. Uh, well, I guess actually, hold on. Let me remove this overlay real fast so we can see the whole thing. Um, the URL is protectukrainenow.org. Putting that in the chat as well. And if you go to the website, there are a few things that are kind of being focused on by Protect Ukraine Now at this time. Um, one thing that is currently an active campaign, I'll let Alec tell you all about it, is a push to make calls to Congress. And of course, many groups have been doing calls to Congress. For example, the lead up to the recent 60 billion in military aid from the United States. There were many, many calls made for months in support of that. But can you tell us a little bit about this campaign you have now, Alec?
Certainly. So, just like you mentioned, we're just one of so many organizations and groups that advocate to call our members of the Congress and ask for specific needs of Ukraine. As always, devil is in the details, and here we try to put in perspective things that are most critical to talk about right now. Number one priority is to allow the use of US made weapons against Russian legit targets on their territory. At the moment, the administration is not allowing that sort of usage. And that creates, as Mike McCall so elegantly put it, a sanctuary where Russians are able to accumulate their forces. From that territory, they launch attacks on Ukrainian cities, especially a difficult situation at the moment in Kharkiv. Kharkiv is a border city, it's very close to Russia, and because of that proximity, it is very hard to protect it with air defense or by other means. What Ukraine, though, could do is hit back at military installations that launch assaults at that city, and that will be very effective. In general, what's really is hitting Ukraine right now, hitting hard, glide bombs. For those who are not familiar, glide bombs are ordinary uh, Soviet style old bombs that are meant to be dropped straight down. What Russians do right now is they attach stabilizers to those bombs, and they shoot them from high above, and they glide for about 40 or so kilometers, 40 to 60 kilometers into Ukrainian territory. And because these bombs are equipped with GPS navigation, they are able to hit quite precisely at where they targeted to. And this is a very big problem for Ukraine at the moment, for the mentioned reasons. And also, these bombs are very inexpensive. They're cheap. Russia has them in large quantities. They're able to produce more. They basically attach conversion kits to their current stock, or they produce new bombs with that. So shooting them down is very expensive and ineffective. What needs to be done is the airplanes that shoot those bombs, they launch those attacks, they need to be taken out. This can be done with air defense systems, in particular Patriot systems. US currently provides Ukraine with PAC-2 and PAC-3 systems. Both of them are great. The difference between PAC-2 and PAC-3 is PAC-3 is able to hit ballistic missiles, or take down rather ballistic missiles. This is not always necessary. So PAC-2 is great again at mitigating Russian airplanes, bombers that launch glide bomb attacks. There's one more item, number 3. It talks about excess defense articles. The United States of America has a lot of old weapons we no longer require. They are either written off or on some sort of long-term storage. We pay for that equipment to be maintained. We pay for a destruction of that equipment when it reaches end of life. In fact, at the moment, a lot of munition is being destroyed, a lot of munition that can be and should be sent to Ukraine. So that advocacy effort is aimed at asking our congresspeople to send Ukraine that old equipment we no longer require, but Ukraine can make a great use of it.
Okay, very good, very good. And as he was mentioning, that kind of breaks down the different issues that can be brought up to one's representatives. But also, if you look, there's a little bit of a script that can guide you in how to set up that conversation with a representative. So please definitely check out the Call to Congress link on Protect Ukraine Now. Now, before we keep going, I was seeing in chat that Alec's audio is sounding pretty good, but mine is a bit quieter. So let me know right quick, everyone, if that's sounding better, right? Uh, yeah, right about now. Anyway, let me know in chat if that audio is about the same or if I'm sounding a little bit louder now. Now then, with that, another thing here that I'd like to highlight real fast before we move on, there's a military aid flowchart here. Not just flowchart, but really just a breakdown of weapons that have been committed to Ukraine, weapons that are currently possessed by Ukraine, and uh, various other metrics that are important regarding Ukraine's security, supplemental, everything that it's received and everything that it needs in order to fight this war. So, Alec, I guess as we can see here, we can kind of take a look at all the different equipment that's been donated by various countries, and we can see what's been promised, what's currently possessed by both sides. Can you give us a bit of a breakdown, I guess, of the most important information you think from this page?
Certainly. So, number one thing I'd like everyone to notice is the equipment sent to Ukraine is measured in hundreds, sometimes in dozens of units. This is not an overwhelming amount of military assistance. Keeping in mind that Ukraine is a pretty big country, and the front line is vast. It's about 1,000 kilometers, I believe, and it takes a lot of equipment to be effective. And unfortunately, we have not seen enough of that gear being sent to Ukraine. In the same time, Russia possesses a lot of old gear from Soviet times, and they're able to refurbish it and send to the front line quickly and efficiently. You can also see that we're still awaiting for F-16s. There was so much talk about it, and we're yet to see the first airplane to arrive. So mm, that's the reality, and it's very important to keep that in mind when we advocate to the members of the Congress about the needs of Ukraine. If you scroll down just a little bit to our U.S. aid financial breakdown, this is this graph also very important chart. Here you can see how the $61 billion everyone talks about splits, and uh, probably the first thing that uh, should be very obvious is that not for Ukraine section down below. This is military procurement, operations, maintenance, as expenditures of the Department of Defense. This is money spent on the US military rather than Ukraine. While this is very important that the US is investing in military, uh, given that Russia has started a major war in Europe, this is very important. But this is not the aid for Ukraine. This is not what Ukrainian defenders can use on the front line. And I believe this is very important to point out for two main reasons. Number one, very soon we would need to be asking for additional military assistance for Ukraine because current aid is going to run out, and it is very hard to advocate for additional assistance when on everyone's mind is this $61 billion that supposedly Ukraine has received. Second, when we ignore the fact that 50% of this supplemental is actually for the U.S. needs, we also ignore the fact that this is a war where United States has a stake in as well. This is not just Ukrainian war; we participate in it as well, and this is also our business. So for everyone who believes that it doesn't matter if this, for example, supplemental would have passed, doesn't matter to us. This graph shows how wrong they are. We also benefit a lot by uh, assisting Ukraine.
Yeah,
Not only because Ukrainians stop Russian forces, but also because we receive additional funds for our own military here in the United States.
yeah, absolutely. Um, and I know that is something that I know many people have kind of reiterated to their representatives in the past, but it's important to be reminded of. So this chart really does a good job of it because you realize that a good portion is going to Ukraine, but then uh, I guess an equal portion, or I mean, if you combine both of these together, it's slightly more, but uh, just as much is not going to Ukraine at all. So yeah, it's important to break down the details, or rather, a better way to put it is it's being used primarily for domestic military procurement and
Mhm.
production in the U.S. Um, so, all right, I guess that is a bit about Protect Ukraine Now, everybody. Please be sure to go take a look at their website. They're doing great work. Take subscribe to their channel on YouTube to stay up to date on everything that's happening. And we'll go ahead and move on to a few articles right quick to discuss some recent events that are happening in Ukraine. My audio should be better now. I found the reason why it was a bit quiet. And let's move on to the first article. As usual, I'm going to have it in reader mode, so it's kind of just the information without advertisements and other things popping up out of nowhere. And I will put the link to the article we'll be discussing into the chat. All right, and here. First, let me turn off full screen. Here we go. So the first topic is going to be just one that a lot of people that's been in the news a little bit here recently, and I feel is probably important to start with the peace summit that is coming up soon in Switzerland. This is from pravda.com.ua, Ukrainian news source. Zelensky, 90 countries confirm their attendance at peace summit. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that 90 countries have already confirmed their attendance at the peace summit in Switzerland in June. So this is coming up very soon, everyone. This is coming up next month. Keep that in mind. Zelensky at a press conference in Madrid on Monday during his visit to Spain, as reported by European Pravda. Zelensky noted that Spain's attendance at the first Global Peace Summit would be historic. A total of 90 countries have confirmed their attendance so far. We continue to work with world leaders to ensure broader representation, Zelensky said. And the president expressed gratitude to Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez for confirming his attendance at the summit. Quote, "It is there at the summit that we will see who really believes in international law and is ready to protect it effectively. Every leader who does not want this war to go on and the Russian Federation to continue its aggression can demonstrate their true interest in peace at the summit," Zelensky added. Important things to note. First, actually, it's not mentioned here in this article, but uh, the Russian Federation is not invited, so they will not be at this peace summit. This will pretty much exclusively be allies of Ukraine and other governments that have a vested interest in everything that is happening right now, but not the Russian Federation. The United States government has announced that it will be represented at the peace summit, but it's not yet known who will go there. President Zelensky has urged leaders of the U.S. and China to personally attend the peace summit. And at a meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in May, Zelensky stressed that it was crucial that President Joe Biden attend the peace summit. So let me ask your thoughts on this, Alec, regarding this peace summit. Do you see it as, in general, a positive development? Do you see it as something that may be fruitful, or more as something that's making uh, important political statements to different involved governments? What are your general thoughts of this peace summit to start with?
In general, I don't see it as a development. There were a lot of talks, a lot of summits, a lot of meetings. Ramstein, for example, is one of our most famous meetings from the past, where various countries met together to discuss assistance to Ukraine. By itself, these are not news. It's great. That's great that countries continue to support Ukraine. This is awesome that we not inviting Russia to participate in this event. Uh, to most of us, this is just what is expected. We don't expect murderers and rapists to attend peace summits. We also expect the most liberal, most civilized countries in the world support Ukraine in its effort to secure the safety of the population and the borders, integrity of the territory. So hopefully that this summit is going to be followed up by actual assistance, actual military aid to Ukraine. This is what is been severely lacking from the very beginning of the war, and that's really, in my opinion, where everyone's focus must be.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with what you said there. It's not something that on the battlefield I think is really indicating any major development. But well, one thing I did find interesting about this, I'm sure quite a few people have found interesting, is the fact that Xi Jinping, the Chinese government, has been invited. Do you think that a big part of this might be trying to find a diplomatic means of preventing certain other governments, such as China, for example, getting involved on Russia's side? since we know that Shahid drones, Iranian involvement has happened in the past.
Right. Well, China is one of the beneficiaries of this war. There's no reason to believe they are interested in ending the Russian occupation of Ukraine. But of course, there's an interest among other countries to persuade them to get off their alliance with Russia and be more involved in finding solution to the war. And of course, the only solution that we see feasible is Russia taking their troops and returning home.
Right. Okay. Next. All right. So next topic then that we can jump into right quick, which kind of ties into this. One piece of good news. Given the fact that Spain's been covered a little bit in the last at least week or two. Um, Spain, and I'll go ahead and put this into the chat for everyone. The article. Spain, from The Guardian, to give Ukraine $1 billion in military aid and decade long defense deal. Now, I highlight this not specifically just to be random, but if anyone's seen previous streams, there's been a lot of announcements from a few countries, from Denmark, from Norway, from, of course, from the UK, multiple times of new military aid packages. This one coming from Spain this time. So, Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky met in Madrid to sign an enormously important decade long defense and security deal. Although the precise details of the agreement have not been made public, the Spanish government said its assistance would, quote, allow Ukraine to prioritize its capacities, including its air defenses. The bilateral deal was agreed to 2 days after Russia's onslaught in the northeastern Ukrainian city of Kharkiv, as I'm sure many of us have been following the developments there. And as EU leaders grow increasingly exasperated with Hungary's efforts to block aid to Ukraine, this deal will allow Ukraine to boost its capabilities, including its essential air defense systems to protect its civilian cities and infrastructure, which are still suffering indiscriminate attacks, as seen this weekend in Kharkiv, Sanchez told a press conference after the signing. So, I guess my big reason, and I'll let, of course, the rest of the article is here. Anyone interested can click the link and take a look at the whole thing. But just in general, I've seen over the last few months, especially, uh, more of an urgency, I guess you could say, or more articles at least highlighting a few 100 million, or now I'm starting to see in the billions of euros, um, different aid packages from various European countries, NATO countries. There's, of course, all of the talk about the Nordic and Baltic countries with a drone wall, I believe, is what they're discussing right now uh, on the border with Russia up there uh, in the north. Uh, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this is just a kind of piecemeal aid, or a sign that Europe as a whole is starting to wake up and try to unify, increase their own, united defense spending, um, separate from the United States or in tandem?
Yeah, this very welcome news. $1 billion is roughly a monthly uh, package that Ukraine has received in the beginning of the war. By end of last year, that package from US was reduced to about $500 million to between half and $0.3 billion. So $1 billion again is a lot of money. And of course, it's great that our European partners stepping up. And definitely, I would agree with you. Europe is trying to increase the production of military equipment, and they try to boost their aid to Ukraine. Very good news.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Um, and I guess another follow up with this. Uh, Actually, I don't have this pulled up in an article, but so do you think that we're seeing slowly mm, movement in the direction that not only would other European countries be providing more aid directly to Ukraine, but under specific scenarios or circumstances, um, if the enemy uh, uh, did end up with something that gave them an advantage, the possibility of allies directly coming to Ukraine's defense in the form of sending troops? Or do you think that's still too early to really determine if that would happen or not?
From political perspective, I believe we should not be, we by we I mean America and and Europe, we should not be drawing any red lines for ourselves. That means sending troops, sending any form of assistance should be always on the table. Whether or not we're going to do it is should be entirely up to our countries, and we should not be announcing any restrictions for ourselves. So yes, absolutely, we should consider sending troops to assist Ukraine, especially given a very difficult situation on the front. Ukraine losing people, and this is this resource that cannot be replenished, unlike military aid. As far as military assistance, one of the great news we have heard recently was also an announcement by Blinken of $2 billion that will be committed to joint ventures between Ukraine and foreign manufacturers. This is very important because Ukraine is able to produce weapons quicker and more efficiently. Economically, Russia is outpacing the West because they enjoy cheap labor, and they're able to cut through a lot of bureaucracy because of dictatorship in Russia. And consider that a 155 millimeter shell produced by NATO countries at the moment can be as expensive as $8,000, where Russia is able to produce that. Well, in their case, would be 152 millimeters shell for mm, less than 1,000. It could be as little as a few $100s. Again, Russia is more efficient and when it comes to producing weapons. They also get a lot of aid from North Korea, China, and Iran. So hopefully, when Ukraine is able to produce weapons in more quantities, that will be a huge change. As far as the West, there are obviously technical reasons why we cannot produce weapons as cheaply as Russia can.
Right. And well, let me ask this also then, as far as weapons production goes and other equipment, do you think it's a matter of the West needing to find um, new uh, negotiations for trade, infrastructure for trade with other countries, such as in South America or across Asia, Africa, other continents? Or do you think that it's something that could or should be done domestically? And also, do you think it's something that realistically will be done um, unless there's some kind of large event that spurs kind of a you know getting the attention of certain key governments, like, for example, uh, weapons production increasing in World War II after Pearl Harbor in the United States. Do you think an event like that would be realistically what would kind of wake the West up to coming to Ukraine's aid and really taking the fight to Russia?
There are several key reasons why the West is not efficient. Number one, we have a lot of overhead related to various insurances, various bureaucracies, various pensions, other things. So, the West pays as overhead to produce not only weapons but everything else. So that's something we cannot change quickly. We probably should change that, but that's a totally different discussion. Another reason West is not very efficient is because of overall debt. As you know, in the United States, we're growing debt at a rate of about $400 million in hour. That's a lot of debt to deal with. So that obviously adds to the difficulty in producing more weapons quickly and efficiently. So contracting out some of that manufacturing to other countries can certainly help in the short term.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Um, awesome. Well, then moving to the topic of the U.S. then, and aid to Ukraine. Because yeah, as you mentioned, debt is something that needs to be the economics of it. It all has to be figured out because money, labor, and the production of anything, including weapons at a national scale, doesn't come out of nowhere. Um, but one thing that has been announced recently, and again, I'm putting the link into the chat for everyone. This is from ABC News. United States to send additional $2 billion in Ukraine aid, Blinken says. This is from earlier this month in May. Notice, oh, that's information. Hold on. I have to reload this because only loaded, it only loaded part of the page.
Mhm.
1 second.
Yeah. So while you're reloading the page, this is $1.6 billion in foreign military financing (FMF) funds to Ukraine. That's part of the recently passed supplemental bill, and also $400 million from previous FMF, previous supplementals. So together, that's where the $2 billion come from, and they will be again, as I just mentioned earlier, will be used to boost Ukraine manufacturing and also to allow purchasing of military equipment by, from third parties, other countries, not the United States. And again, this is very important because a lot of military gear that Ukraine requires could be owned by other countries.
Okay. All right. Very good to note. And so, yes. So that additional 2 billion, as announced by Secretary of State Antony Blinken during a press conference in Kiev with Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba. Uh, the foreign military financing will be used not only for purchasing weapons from the U.S., but also by Ukraine as it invests in manufacturing its own machinery and weapons. Ukraine will also use some of the funding to purchase weapons from other countries. All of this, in particular, as we think about the defense industrial base, builds on an incredible spirit of innovation, of ingenuity, of entrepreneurship that we see here in Ukraine. The deal for the latest aid comes as Russian forces increase their assaults along the front lines in northern and eastern Ukraine. So I know that since the military aid package of 60 billion was announced and approved back in April, there's also been a few other announcements, such as this one for 2 billion. There was another for I think it was 275 million in
Mhm.
aid from the U.S. So um, on the heels, I guess you could say, or following up after the $60 billion package, which is still actively being delivered, that supplemental. Um, do you see these additional tranches, these additional packages of aid, as being as compounding, or kind of being rushed here, so to speak, like because there was such a long period where it was a trickle, or there wasn't much aid coming at all from the U.S.
Right. So, number one, very important to note, these $2 billion are not additional funds to $60 billion. They are part of that
Oh, yes,
$60 billion package. Very important.
right.
Secondly, this is yet another avenue, another initiative to help Ukraine in a different way. For example, again, producing weapons by Ukrainian companies, financing that initiative. This is not, I believe, to compensate for the lack of assistance in the beginning of this year, because there will be a while. That will be a while before that money is going to be producing some results uh, that the front line can appreciate. But this is again very important development. What we can and should do to compensate for the lack of military deliveries in the beginning of the year is by sending our current stock. As I mentioned earlier, United States has excess defense articles (EDA). That's a large program. We sell military gear to third parties, to our partners, our allies. This is a common use for the equipment we no longer require, and we should prioritize sending aid to Ukraine by those means. And another thing to note, in the past, the packages with aid delivered to Ukraine, there were small amounts, small packages. We should be front loading that assistance. If equipment is ready to ship, it should ship to Ukraine right away. We should not be trying to spread that assistance over time. We should let Ukraine manage their own supply rather than giving them small packages once a month.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that makes yeah, I absolutely agree with that. It really does feel like this is something where there needs to be more of a united, overarching general strategy rather than it's felt for a long time like it's been a lot of uh, politicking, a lot of one portion of the U.S. government having to fight and advocate very, very strongly in order to get anything delivered. Yeah.
Yep, and that reminds us that United States government is not a single body. It is, fortunately for us, uh, is built from several branches, several um, pieces, and we should and can help those politicians, those Congress people who advocate for Ukraine. They definitely need your phone call. You can and should again thank Congress people who support Ukraine for the work they do, and we should also remind those who maybe can do better to join Congress people who already on board with providing Ukraine with what they need right now. At the moment, for example, there is a document signed by, I believe, 13 Congress people from their intelligence committee. The document is addressed to Secretary Austin, asking him to lift any restrictions on hitting the territory, Russian Federation territory, where they accumulate military forces. And this is great. This is awesome, and we should thank those certain Congress people for the great letter they put together. And we should ask the rest to join those ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Very well said. Now, right quick, we have a question that came in from a member of the chat. Uh, let's see here. Mr. Squiggle has a question. Could Ukraine make its own? Oh, and I guess this would go back to what was mentioned on the over here, object number 2, the glide bombs issue, on the Protect Ukraine Now website. Mr. Squiggle asks, could Ukraine make its own glide bombs on a smaller scale, dropped by drones or guided like an FPV? Now, yeah, as far as Ukrainian, stockpile of glide bombs to use against the enemy, do you have any knowledge of this about Ukrainian domestic production of such weapons?
Where Ukraine is doing really great is producing unmanned aircraft or drones of all sort of usage, reconnaissance drones, drones that able to deliver payloads, explosives, and so on. Uh, yes, Ukraine is definitely excelling in that direction. The problem right now is the scale. They're not able to manufacture that equipment quickly enough in the in the sufficient quantities. As far as doing the reverse technique and shooting glide bombs at Russians, they would need to have airplanes able to approach front lines and conduct the same similar operation. This is not an option right now for Ukraine. Russia dominates the sky, and that's really why so much effort goes into asking for F-16s and Patriot systems. So both of them are critical in controlling the sky.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you very much. Um, and as mm, well as far as well, and I guess this is this is a follow-up question I have then, not just with glide bombs, but with any weapons that Ukraine is currently, yeah, not just acquiring from allies, but it, might be attempting to produce domestically. Um, do you think that it's better or rather safer to find a way to set up that production and protect it from enemy bombardment on the territory of Ukraine? Or do you think that Ukrainian individuals and companies could find a way to further integrate that production in, say, Poland or Romania, a neighboring country, and then negotiate being able to produce what they need there and own the factories and then transport to Ukraine?
That's a great question. I believe both options are on the table. Ukraine can manufacture on the west side of the country, where Russian attacks are more difficult. For Russians, it's more difficult to attack, and they can also produce weapons in Poland or neighboring countries. Historically, during World War II, every country involved in the war was producing weapons of its own. Germany was producing weapons until the very last months of the war. So when Allies took over Berlin and the war was over, they found a large number of airplanes and other equipment that was brand new. It was just manufactured. Germany ran out of fuel and out of pilots before it ran out of airplanes.
Mm, okay, very
So,
nice.
so yes, producing weapons during wartime is absolutely possible. It has its own challenges,
Yeah,
but it can and should be done.
absolutely. No, I 100% agree. And I know that, well, I mean, okay, actually, I don't know. I've just heard that in Kiev there is some infrastructure, or rather underground infrastructure underneath the city. But given that the rest of Ukraine is very flat, I guess the reason I ask is since Ukraine doesn't have a lot of mountains or natural defensive terrains for hiding or just protecting in general such facilities was my big question for asking, because it is absolutely crucial, but also finding the right strategy and tactics so that you're not building something up and then having to rebuild it like trying to protect a sandcastle from the ocean. You know what I mean?
Sure. And the west side of the country certainly has mountains. They're not anything huge, but there's still added difficulty to hitting any targets that can be hidden in between. That's really San Francisco region, and a lot of manufacturing can be moved over there.
Makes sense. I guess let's not put too much focus on those regions for that reason alone.
Certainly.
All right. Well, then, we are getting closer to an hour here for our stream. So, one thing I'll jump over to real fast, just to kind of round things out and give people a bit of information that's useful. Now, Protect Ukraine Now is its own channel, its own entity. However, there is another group that would I feel is very important, especially for Americans to be aware of. Um, and that is, oh, let me move it so we can focus on it. The American Coalition for Ukraine. Now, this is a coalition of multiple different organizations, nonprofits, really just organizations of various different types within the United States, with almost all 50 states represented with different members and organizational members, over 100 organizations involved, has attended and been involved in, according to this, 350 congressional meetings, a few of them being Nova Ukraine, which I know has been covered in various channels. Many of you probably subscribe to here on YouTube. Ukrainian National Women's League of America, Razom, again, very good. United Help Ukraine, U.S. Ukraine Veterans Bridge, uh, and many more. Um, and that includes Protect Ukraine Now. So, yeah, Alec, do you have anything you'd like to mention about the coalition? Mostly, I just want people to be aware of it so they can go read about it and really know the good work that the coalition has been doing for Ukraine.
Yes, absolutely. American Coalition for Ukraine is a coalition, a group of over 100 organizations. And I'm familiar with a lot of people that make up this organization. They are great, wonderful people. I'm proud to be familiar and working together with those individuals. All of them outside of going to DC, as you can see on the picture you're sharing, they all do their own voluntary advocacy or other work in assisting Ukraine. They ship tons of various assistance to Ukraine. And of course, advocacy is one of the important things the coalition does. And I'd like to use this opportunity to remind everyone here in the United States that participating in a democracy is important for this very democracy to prosper to begin with. When we go to DC, this is nothing extra ordinary. This is part of how this system was designed and meant to be used. Our representatives require our input to know which values, which interests they need to represent. And everyone here who supports Ukraine, we're not on the front lines. We are in the safety of our homes here in the United States. And calling our Congress people, sending them a letter, uh, meeting with them in their local offices in the districts and in DC is one of the most impactful way we can do to help Ukraine. Uh, as um, as you can see, we had about 560 attendees at the last summit in DC in April of this year. And this very modest number of people made a lot of difference. Thanks to the efforts of those attendees, we were able to push through the supplemental. Yes, we wish it was better. We'd like it to have more weapons for Ukraine, but consider the impact and the amount of effort that was put into it. Imagine how much better we can do if instead of 560 people, we had several thousand. Imagine how much we can do if we had tens of thousands of people call our Congress people every day. There are about 1 million of Ukrainians who live in the United States. I'm sure there'll be several million if we add to that number everyone else who is supporting Ukraine from Americans or people from other countries. We are a large group of people, and we can do significantly more helping Ukraine. The results, what we see today, are directly proportional to the amount of advocacy we have produced to this date. So please do not underestimate the importance of that participation.
Absolutely. Okay, so I've got one more question that's come in right quick. And then I think a good way to round this out then would be to remind people how they can contact if they're a U.S. citizen, how they can contact their congressman, uh, House of Representatives, and Senate. And then of course, if you are not a U.S. citizen, please look up how to do so for your own government. If you would like to reach out and urge them to show more support for Ukraine, it all helps. It definitely all helps.
Actually,
Mhm.
if you are legally in the United States, if you're not a tourist, and if you're legally in the United States, you can still call and advocate for Ukraine. If you're a permanent resident, if you're on work visa, if you live in the United States on some sort of permanent or semi-permanent basis, you certainly should not present yourself as a citizen, but you can and should advocate.
Absolutely. Very important to note. Thank you very much. Because I do feel like that's something that isn't, people aren't reminded of that often enough. Um, Now, the question that we've got, hold on, here it is. Highlighting it now for chat. From Kellen Dunn, related to the previous question about domestic manufacturing of weapons and ammunition, has Ukraine, to the best of your knowledge or knowledge that you're able to share, if you have it, has Ukraine established a 155 millimeter shell production line yet? I heard there was a joint venture with Rheinmetall from Germany, for those unfamiliar, but nothing announced that's concrete yet. Have you heard? The last I heard about this was back in March, I want to say. Have you heard anything about German production of shells for Ukraine?
My overall understanding is Ukraine is producing some shells. Unfortunately, they're not in sufficient quantities to make a difference on the front line. But there is some manufacturing taking place, and a lot is being done to improve that production.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Good to note. All right, next. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do then, before we finish up the stream, is I've got a few links here. Let me open them up for everyone to see. Here we go. So I know that actually there's multiple different places you can get this information, uh, but I do not have the one I was using before highlighted here or bookmarked at the moment. But for those who are looking to assist with this initiative, please keep in mind, as mentioned, the Call to Congress campaign by Protect Ukraine Now, and I'm putting it up on screen again. If you would like to take part, whether you are a U.S. citizen or a U.S. permanent resident, because as Alec mentioned, both have a right to make a call to representatives in the United States, and that is a legal fact. Just again, if you aren't a citizen, know that you have the right to call, but do not misrepresent yourself as a citizen. That's important to note.
And
Um,
if you enter your address over there in the search box, it will tell you who your senators and representative is. We do not collect that your contact information. We just use it to look up your two senators and one representative.
Okay, perfect, perfect. Well, all right, I won't enter anything right now because I don't have uh, dummy information I could enter for this. Um, but yeah, definitely check that out. There is built into the website a search option so you can find your representatives, everyone. And well, I know that there's another initiative that was being done by a group in the coalition that was really good for finding them quickly and efficiently. When they use this, it should pull up pretty quickly. Both of their senators and their representative. Is that correct, Alec?
Absolutely. And yes, there are many ways to look up your senators and representatives, and a quick Google search will tell you how to find contact information for those people. You don't need, obviously, to use our website, but please find the contact information for your members of the Congress and call them.
Absolutely. Um, I'm putting the links for the Protect Ukraine Now call campaign into chat, and also links for Americans on how to find their representative in the House and how to contact their senators for their state. So please check out all three of those links, everyone. It makes a big difference, and yeah, your voice does matter. So with that, uh, I think we've covered quite a bit. This has been a pretty good, productive conversation. Do you have any closing thoughts or anything that you'd like to bring up right quick or tell the audience, Alec?
Um, yes, as I mentioned, we need to be taking part in helping Ukraine. Uh, while it is difficult sometimes or takes time, effort to call your Congress people, you need to figure out what you're going to say. However, this is definitely much less of a burden than for defenders of Ukraine who are at the moment in trenches without sufficient munitions at hand. So we need to be advocating for those people. The defenders of Ukraine require our assistance the most. They are most exposed. They take the highest risk possible at the moment, and they need weapons to be effective. We also need to remind everyone in our surroundings that we not only helping Ukraine, we are helping ourselves when we allow atrocities to happen to other nations. We also allow that to happen to ourselves, because if this trend continues, we're going to see more and more countries like Russia and Iran and North Korea, and less countries like United States, Canada, you name it. So we'd like us to be more of us and less of them.
Absolutely, 100% agreed. And I think two American quotes that I think are very appropriate for that sentiment are, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." So don't let fear rule you and your decisions, everyone. And second, freedom isn't free. It takes work, it takes maintenance, and it takes observation to see what's happening, not just in your own country, but globally. If you want to maintain your freedom, then the cost is constant vigilance.
And peace through strength. The only way we can achieve peace, as long as there are bad actors out there, is by being strong and standing to bullies, who in this case is definitely no, Russia is one of them. Yeah,
Yeah. What's the old? I think Theodore Roosevelt. His old saying was, "Speak softly and carry a heavy stick."
that's right.
That's right. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Alec, for being here. This has been a fantastic conversation, and I hope that we see you again. I'm sorry that you see the timing for this. I actually wanted it to be earlier, today, but as I'm sure you're familiar, because we're all incredibly busy, uh, my entire week had been running from one appointment to the next. But I want to thank you very much for being here. Uh, it's been a fantastic conversation, and I hope that we can continue to um, advocate for people to learn more about how to help Ukraine through your channel, and that we see you again soon.
Thank you, Secular. I appreciate the invitation and the opportunity to speak about helping Ukraine.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Remember to check out the Protect Ukraine Now YouTube channel and subscribe so you can keep up to date on what's happening in Ukraine. And Slava Ukraini.
Heroin Slava.